Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, and welcome to the Liverpool 12th Fan Show. I'm the Liverpool 12th Man. And today we are joined by Brian. Hello, Brian.
Good evening.
Good evening for sure. We're going to be doing a cool little series take that we're going to do, or a couple of episodes. We're going to try to make this into like a recurring theme. But we're going to be doing Twitter takes. And basically, Twitter or X, as it's called now, you definitely get some interesting opinions out there. You get some interesting, how can you put it? Some interesting takes, to say the least, that all just seem to drive up interest in one way or another, depending on how you look at it. But all the same, it is always, sometimes it's some good information, sometimes not so much. But it's always a fun little dive into the pool that is known as X. So I've been looking at it, and I've compiled a couple of questions or a couple of different takes of possibly even of my own as well in there that I wanted to go into. I wanted to see how you guys feel about it, see your comments, see your inclusion in the conversation with myself and Brian over some of these topics that I have put together. So if you guys are ready for it, I think I am. But I'll make sure, Brian, you ready for this?
Yeah, I see you're representing Cody there.
Yeah, I'm trying to get him. Yeah. Showing the love, man. I know Cody's not necessarily getting much love as of late.
Catching a few bullets. He's catching a few bullets. Can't be denied.
Yeah. It's unfortunate too, because it's funny because I've said it too. One of the reasons why we have an actual our first piece of silverware was because of his contribution, which was that Fulham game where he had the game winner, which is a pretty big contribution. I mean, he doesn't get that game winner, when we go to Fulham, it's a whole different story, but all the same, everyone's welcome to their opinions, so I figured yes, even on Twitter. So I figured I'd show a little love and try to make sure that it works out. Maybe hopefully he finds himself in better surroundings. All the same, let's get into some of these hot little Twitter takes that I've come across. Okay, so first things first, you know what? I did have one particular one, but I wanted to go into this one particularly first because I know that the Twitterverse is hot right now. The PGMOL is hot right now with the takes that they're going on about Mark Clattenburg and like how he came off by pointing out that the decision on the pitch was wrong by the referee to give the drop ball to Liverpool. What's very interesting in that game too, let me point out, is that there was a similar incident that happened where they got a drop ball to their keeper, right? Even though we had possession of the ball as well. I don't think people recognize that. There was and I have to I wish I could show the actual footage, but there was there was a stoppage of play. They brought the ball back. They gave it to Forrest, but the ball had already been kicked out. We already had control of it. It was on their right hand side, if not our left hand side at the time. So and then they got the ball back, a drop ball, and they brought it back. They gave it to the goalkeeper because the goalkeeper had actually kicked the ball to the right side. We regained possession of the ball, but then he actually called it and brought it back to the keeper. So it was just kind of interesting that they don't necessarily mention that little incident. But the reason why I'm talking about that is because Mark Clattenburg, who is an officiating consultant for Forest now, do you think that it's out of bounds to start bringing in ex-officials as your officiating consultant, they're calling it, or officiating whatever. I don't even know the proper title that they're going to bring on it. But you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty bizarre on a lot of levels. It's this guy Marinakis, Greek,
Mm-hmm.
owner of Olympiacos, uh, owns Forest. Obviously, a very emotional guy. Clearly, a very emotional guy. And
Mm-hmm.
I think you see, he seems to take these things quite like
Personally.
to the level that sort of fans, that the more conspiratorial type of fan does, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he really. And for some reason, I actually I don't know what he expects Mark Clattenburg to actually do. I
Right.
mean, other than sit down with him after the game and say this happened or that happened. Maybe he maybe he thinks if he has Clattenburg there and Clattenburg says this is definitely wrong and they got this wrong, then he may feel more empowered to go and I don't know sue Pogmall. I honestly I don't know because it's like getting in a retired guard or a retired police officer um,
Right.
to kind of work at your club and just stand there and tell you why everyone got arrested. I mean, he can't stop anyone. He can't intervene. He can't. He
Right.
doesn't have his powers anymore. I mean,
Right.
I really don't understand what he thinks. Like, I just don't know. Like, what is he? Is it this some kind of sucker for himself? To make himself feel better after Clattenburg can explain things. Because what does one do? What does a refereeing consultant actually do?
That's
It's
my question.
completely bizarre. It's bizarre,
I mean,
man. It's
how?
just literally been invented by this guy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, because like he has no power, he has no
Right.
influence. He's not a he can't. He can literally do nothing but
Right.
come out and I don't know what. I think maybe
And you.
come out. I think in the press. Sorry, but he was in uh, the hot zone, the mix zone afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
where
Mm-hmm.
basically that's just players. It's only ever players that are getting interviewed because managers don't go through there. Well, not for that guy. It's basically where the press catch the players on the way out. Sometimes they stop, sometimes they don't. But Clattenburg was there, and I was reading a couple of journalists saying this is completely unprecedented for a referee, an ex-referee, to be in the mix zone, getting hit up for questions by the press. So maybe he's also prepared to come out and go, "That was wrong. That was wrong. This was wrong. Forrest should have got this." I really don't know, man. This is the first time anyone's ever had this job, and I think they've just invented it for some reason. I can't
Right.
understand what it's for. Who it's supposed to help?
And you got to think he's your boss. So are you going to be coming out? Is Mark Clattenburg going to be coming out with like negative calls against Forrest? You know what I mean? Are they going to be like, oh,
Obviously,
you know what,
obviously not.
Forrest shouldn't have
Yeah,
gotten this call, or Forrest, you know what, this is wrong for us to have gotten this or gotten that. He's going to be
yeah.
kind of biased, don't you think? Wouldn't you think?
One would think so. Yeah, one would assume that there is a name on your paycheck underneath,
Exactly.
printed, and you're kind of. You know. But
Exactly.
Clattenburg, I think, needs to stay off the sunbed for a start. Um, I think he's now the God. He's the referee on Gladiators. You know what Gladiators is?
the is that the
It's a TV show. It's kind of a mixture between those kind of obstacle course.
oh, okay, like American
So
Gladiators.
yeah, exactly. The American
Okay.
Gladiators, Gladiator. It's the same show. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
and they brought that back to English TV there recently. And back when that was on first, it was the English one. And the referee that was in it was this Scottish guy, and he became a kind of a mini celebrity. So the referee in it was always a bit of a celebrity role. So they got
Mhm.
Clattenburg in for that. So the guy is just he doesn't really have any credibility at this stage. It's a bizarre thing to do. It really is.
Yeah, it's really weird that they're going to be trying, and I think it's like dangerously going to I said dangerously what's the words I'm looking for. It's dangerous because I think that other clubs are going to probably do the same. They're going to try to bring in other referees, former referees, this or that, give them a plush little job. This what to sit there and try to find out different ways, to like it really boggles my mind as to why they
The
would
only
go down this.
the only thing I can think of potentially, and this definitely isn't what Clapper would be to have someone, and the refs do this, but to have someone there, even this doesn't make sense because this should only take about 2 days. But to have someone come
Mhm,
in and explain what new rules are and what you can't do, and maybe things like that. But they
mhm,
all have meetings. The referees go around to all the clubs at the start of the season, and they lay
right,
out to people what new, like this was handball last year, it's not handball this year. This was offside last year, it's not offside this year. This year this will be dissent. All this kind of stuff, and they go around and then you just go off again. But
right.
honestly, I'm struggling. I really am struggling to think what possible point there is to this
Is
job.
it is it do you think it's maybe what Steven's saying here? It says they are trying to make it so results get changed after the game. That's at
Well,
least what he's seeing.
that's what I mentioned
Mhm,
earlier. That maybe
yeah.
he's someone that if he can explain to Marinakis what's gone wrong, if Marinakis gets it from him, he may feel empowered to go and move further and ask for this or ask for that. But I mean, is that going to
Mhm,
happen every game? I just really, I'm scraping the bar here, trying to think of something that he might actually
mhm.
be doing, other for it to be some kind of, I think,
And that's the
kind of a
thing.
public
That's the thing
stunt.
that like realism Jared is saying is like we should hire our own ref consultant. We actually need it because
Why?
Klopp can't say anything. Like that way, you don't if you hire a consultant, I guess, then Klopp doesn't have to come out and say, you could just have your consultant come out and criticize the calls, as opposed to having Klopp do it. And then it might have a little bit more precedent considering it's a former ref doing it rather than the coach doing it.
No, I don't want us going down that road. Honestly, like that's just way too much down the rabbit hole. Like if they want to do it, let them do it. It's not going to help anything. I know, and try Klopp or try and stop Klopp from saying something in a press conference. You know,
Right.
I think, yeah. Look, whatever Forrest, I think my guess would be he won't be there next season. I think it's kind of a publicity stunt.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because I mean, realistically, this is what I was talking about. Reels from Jared brought it up too. He said Mac had the ball just over the 18-yard area, right? On the left, the ref the ref blew excuse me. The ref blew for an injury to their defender in the box. He then dropped the ball to their keeper, and Forrest went ahead and played on without giving us back the ball. That's what I saw too, Reels and Jared. And that's why I'm saying I don't understand. The reason why he did what he did later on is because he did what he did earlier with this play. So it's not like he messed up or was trying to give us an advantage or is trying to cheat for us, as some Forest fans are going as far as to say. He that was his interpretation of the rule. That's what he did in the game for Forest earlier, and then for us later on.
Yeah,
That's
see,
why I'm
Jared is saying here. Yeah, Jared is saying if I'm saying if other clubs do it, we should. Otherwise, you will be left behind because to get the best calls for your club. What Jared is assuming there is that having a refereeing consulted means that you will get better calls on the pitch. It doesn't. It's
oh
just a
no,
guy
yeah,
sitting in the stand that used to be a referee. This isn't something we're
right.
going to be left behind. The Forest have come up with some wacky idea of
Mhm.
hiring. If Real Madrid and Man City and Barcelona and Bayern and everybody else was doing this and it was actually beneficial to the club, but I can't. It's just this is going way too. It's oh, Forest did it. Well, guess what? Forest lost it the weekend, so it didn't help them, did it? Did he
Yeah,
get their
yeah, true.
calls report? No, it didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
Forest are getting beaten every week. It's not having an effect. It's not going to get. the best calls for your club. It may as well be just me sitting in the stand for all the power he has to influence the game. Do you
I
think the
get you.
refs on the pitch are going to be sitting there looking up in the stands going, oh, bloody hell, Clattenburg is up there. We better give Forrest some best calls.
Yeah, we
We
better,
better give a
we don't
penalty
get
to
called
Forrest.
out by it, but,
They're all laughing at Clattenburg. They're looking at him going, fair play to you, Mark. You've conned some guy into giving you probably 150 grand a year to be a consultant referee.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
whenever you want to know if a job is total bullshit, it start with the word consultant. Unless you're in a
Yeah.
hospital and it's one of the proper ones. But consultant this, consultant that at a football club, it just means a job for some bloke to give him some money.
It's the
I mean,
truth,
if you
man.
start, yeah, I don't. We're going way too quick here, saying that it's actually going to get them. Yeah.
Oh no,
It's bizarre.
I'm not saying it's
It
going
is.
to. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that. I mean, Stephen Truth Seeker says it somewhat. I mean, like if that happens, football is over. I mean, there's other things that have happened that have probably made us say that same statement. But like, yeah, it's an interesting take. It's an interesting view of where football is going. I thought I'd bring that up. Well,
And
the
just to bear
next
in mind, the
question.
guy that hired him, sorry, just to bear in mind, the guy that hired him is a complete and utter lunatic. So
Oh
just
yeah,
bear
yeah.
that in mind as well. The guy that came up with this,
Mhm.
you know?
The next take that I was seeing on there on Twitter that's pretty hot right now is question to the chat. Does a Super League already exist, or is the new formation for the Champions League just a Super League in itself? Like as in with the way that they're reformatting, excuse me, the Super League, or excuse me, what I obviously have my opinion, but the Champions League, the Europa League, and the Conference League, they're now bringing it where there'll be more games that fans will have to travel to. There'll be more games for the players to have to play. They'll be playing 3 games a week every 7 to 8 days in some of these runs. It's going to be very interesting how, as a fan, we are accepting of this new format. What do you guys think about it in the chat? Is the format like something that because you will be getting? I know some of us want to see more football. We want to get more. We like having a lot of football. We like being at least having access to a lot of football. I don't know if that necessarily the more quantity that we have is necessarily going to create better quality, but all the same. How are you feeling about that in the chat? Brian, what are your thoughts on that too? Do you think do we have a Super League already and we should just buck up and appreciate what we have, or what is it to you?
Well, there's a reason why the 2 of the main drivers behind the Super League that failed, and that's officially still, not dead, are in Spain. It's there is a de facto Super League already in place in England, because that's where most of the top clubs are.
Yeah.
Other than the 2 Spanish giants, Bayern Munich, maybe PSG.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from them, it's all England anyway. Look at the people that got invited to the Super League. It was mainly just all the English clubs, and then the guys that always finish first in Spain, Germany, and France. So there's already a clear Super League, a de facto Super League in England.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Champions League is a Super League, but I don't know how to define the Super League. But when you have a seeding system that's basically designed to make sure that you can lose, even the biggest teams can lose, say, 3 times and still get through, but they can only go so far. Even if you're talking about the big 4 teams, well, they can't all make the final. So that's what they want, is to have enough games to make sure everybody gets their money and all that, but that the usual suspects, like if you lose 6 games, you're out. They can't protect you all the way, but they make it as kind of difficult as possible to get knocked out. You'll always have 3 teams qualified.
Yeah, for those bigger
they make
teams,
it
they
almost,
make it.
for the
Yeah,
bigger teams, they eventually that they'll come good, and it's what seeding is all about. You keep the big teams apart, and you make sure they only play the smaller teams until they have to play each other, until there's nobody left with the big teams, and
right.
then you're kind of on your own. But the Super League, I don't know that the idea of a non-relegation or promotion league will ever really take off, but they know that's what's killing it.
Mhm.
What's the difference between a Super League and a Champions League? Look, it's complicated. I understand why these guys want to do it, but surely there's enough money in the rest. I honestly I don't get it, man. This one really kind of scrambles my noodle a bit. Like, why they? Because they want a Super League and they want to stay playing in England. Then
Yeah,
they'll be banned from all
yeah.
the other competitions.
And it's going to
Uh,
be harder to do it's going to be harder to rotate the players considering how many games that you have involved in a week. But it's going to be harder to rotate players primarily because okay, you can't, as you just said, you can't lose these. It'd be one thing if you could have like a throwaway game here or there, but you're not really going to necessarily have a lot of those throwaway games per se, as you know. And you're going to have to. You're probably going to have to play more of your starting lineups to kind of get these fixtures in. I saw also a good portion of what a rule that they got rid of. KJ was saying he wants the away goal rule back. The stakes were so much higher back then. I kind of agree with that, to be honest with you. I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, but it kind of made you going out and getting a result on the road that much more important, you know? So like I didn't mind the away goals, to be honest with you.
yeah, the competition. If you think back to what it used to be,
Mm-hmm.
then you'll see how much it's changed. If you just remember the fact that it's a straight knockout. Only got one team from England,
Mm-hmm.
champions. That's it. They're the only team to get there. And if
Mm-hmm.
you get knocked out in your first round, that's it. You're gone. Your European Cup campaign is over for a season.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened to us. We won the European Cup, and Nottingham Forest won the league. So we qualified, obviously, and then we got drawn again. They draw English teams, none of this country protection stuff. So guess what happens? It's a straight draw. Everyone comes, and we get the champions of Europe. Liverpool get drawn against the champions of England in the first knockout. One of them is going out. That year it
Mm-hmm.
was us. So the champions of Europe, one of the best teams ever in Europe, gets knocked out first round, gone. Done.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Can you imagine that today? So now you have all your group games to play. So you can lose one game, you can lose another game, but as long as you get your 3 wins, you're probably going to qualify. That danger that just shows you how far it's actually come, how different it is now. That was
Yeah,
insane back then. Clubs would not sign up for that. Like, we've just spent 200 million
yeah.
on players, and we're out of the Champions League after 2 games.
That was a tough one when like Realism Jared says, yeah, he prefers the champions only qualification in knockout football. That was
Look, 4 teams from England.
in the years when it was just the actual champions actually went to the tournament as opposed to the top four, the top five, or which we might get this year, we might not get this year, depending on some of the results that we see.
Like,
It,
two
it is
teams
it is a was that
I just think that, anyone that finishes below second really shouldn't be in this competition.
right, right. That would be it would be a pretty cool way of figuring out who the real champions are. I mean,
But
but
the
but
European
it's a
Cup is
money
the Champions League.
it is a money grab in a lot of ways. It is definitely a money
Yeah.
grab in a lot of ways.
But it's the European Cup. It's the Champions League. It is the number one competition. It's
Mm-hmm.
just it's just the number one competition. So by diluting it and diluting it and diluting it, you just end up with a watery version. I'm not saying go back to straight knockout champions only, because
Mm-hmm.
that's never going to happen. Just people have to sign up for everything. They'll never sign up for those things again. And they want as many games as possible. They want to play as many games as possible, home and away, get all that money,
Mm-hmm.
get all that TV money, play as often as possible, and but you've got this competition that basically plays a shitload of games, like 160 games or something, just to get to
Yeah.
a semi-final stage or something. Just a bucket load of football for absolutely no real reason in group stages with teams that are
Right.
never going to, like the Copenhagen's and people like this in this world. But just loads of games at loads. You just got a massive, a bloated and diluted competition.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Reels and Terra says it's the reasons, and this is interesting. It's the reason clubs like Benfica, Porto, and even Ajax can't win the UCL these days. It's heavily stacked against them. It's an interesting. I mean,
You can
like,
come close. You can come close in a one-off, once in a 15-year season. A club like Porto with a group of like that Ajax team that nearly got there because they had like the Ligt and De Jong, but yeah, and you're relying on someone else to have a bad season. But yeah, they are once every 12, 14 years, 15 years kind of thing. A Porto will get through, or a Monaco, like that Porto Monaco fight. That was the last time anything like that happened. But yeah, they've
yeah,
just made sure that those people, they can't. They've no chance of getting there. It's going to be Bayern again. It's going to be City again. It's going to be Real Madrid again. It's going to be Liverpool again, or not this year obviously, but it'll be the same four teams from the same six you can probably pick from.
quick question then, real quick question. I know we've had UEFA. We've all thrown UEFA in as being the main culprits. Obviously, they're the main deciding factor in how this Champions League has been formulated now. And obviously there are some the teams do have some impact in saying in putting their votes or putting their ideas into the bag too. But do we have to also hold accountable the television networks, because I'm sure they've had a say in it too, because now they're going to get more games to bring out, to bring out on there, and on top of that, just as you were saying, they're going to be able to probably protect the bigger names like your Real Madrids and your PSGs or whatever, so that you can get a little bit better television audience over the combined long haul of the tournament. Do you think that they had a major impact in this, or do you think that they're going to sit there and say, no, we're just going with whatever, we didn't have any impact or any say in this at all?
Well, it's an interesting question because at the end of the day, TV is what allows us to sign these players.
Mm-hmm.
The TV is what allows us to sign Mo Salah to a 350 grand a week deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's where all the money comes from. Prize money, of course, if you win something if you win the league.
Mm-hmm.
But that's yeah, okay, that's big. Champions League isn't that big, but it's never been about prize money in football. Prize money, the money has always come from other places, the big money,
Mm-hmm.
and the
Mm-hmm.
TV guys are writing those checks. That's why it's
That's
all fighting. We're always
right.
fighting about TV deals in different countries, and the Premier League one. This is why there is a Super League in the Premier League. What I'm saying is because the TV deal that the Premier League signed
Mm-hmm.
is worth more than all the other TV deals combined of the five leagues. It just blows them out of the water.
Right.
It's it just by multiples. So that's why these guys want in, because they
Mm-hmm.
know that they can never compete with what the Premier League gets from TV deals, because they've been left so far behind, and they just want to put themselves in a position to be part of that somehow, and they think the only way to do that is to be in a Super League.
Yeah.
So the TV, are they at fault? Well, I suppose you could say, that they created the monster, I suppose. But
Mm-hmm.
UEFA is probably UEFA would be up there. UEFA and FIFA would be on an FBI list if you're talking about like the world's most corrupt organizations, the
Mm-hmm.
world's most fraudulent. They're up there. They're top five. Like
Oh,
it's this is
absolutely,
what
absolutely.
this is what we're
Yeah.
dealing with. Like even just if you just talk about the briefly the 2012 and the Russian World Cup and the Qatar World Cup. I think 90% of the people that voted for Russia and Qatar have either been jailed, indicted, or
Yep.
sacked, and that's not a
Bribes.
joke.
Yep.
Yeah. 90% of the people that vote. So that's UEFA and FIFA. So when you're dealing with that, and you're dealing with money from TV, I think we're on the back foot and expecting any kind of integrity or any kind of what's best for football kind of ideas to come along. Because this is about nothing else, only money.
Yeah.
And they throw money at clubs, so fans like us get blinded by big signings and don't look out and watch what's going on in the background. And then they'll just announce something like a completely new format for the World Cup, a completely new format for this. They'll just announce a 3-country World Cup, a 3-continent World Cup, just so Saudi Arabia can get a World Cup unopposed. They've got one that's going to be in Spain, Morocco, Argentina, and Ecuador, something crazy like that. It's insane. So that's what we're dealing with, and we're expecting them to come up with good ideas. We could be waiting a while.
Yeah, we could be. I'll tell you what. What we could be also waiting for, which is going to be interesting as well. My next question is this, and this is something I'd love to hear.
What's your, sorry,
Yeah.
what's your take on the Super? Do you think it's going to happen? Do you think it'll happen? Do you think do we already have one in England, or do you actually think do you think the Super League that they wanted?
I think that realistically, we already had a Super League, to be honest with you. Just as you pointed out, as in the majority of the Super League teams that were important to that Super League exist already in the Premier League, and also even when you deal with the Premier League, if you look at, and this is just honest, if you look at the winners of the Premier League, at least in the history of the Premier League, it's a select group of teams that have been able to win the league. Okay, so it's almost like a Super League within a Super League in essence, and it's obvious because we talk about these. We've seen what Forest was forced to do somewhat this year by making so many different. They had I remember you said they made 101, I think, acquisitions or something, transfers.
427.
Might be plus or minus a couple. But the reason why they had to make so many big names or bring in or spend so much money, and now they're getting penalized for it, was because you're trying to compete with the likes of your Spurs or your or obviously your Chelsea or your Liverpool or your Manchester United or your cities. They just don't have that kind of money, nor do they have the caliber of players to actually take on and get into that top 4 or that top 5, which is where the money exists. That's where the money exists. So if you knew that almost every year the top 4 are continuously getting this bigger chunk of the pie, than the other teams that are eventually either going to fall off or just are just hoping to hold on to that other money they get from the Premier League. Yeah, of course. I think it's a Super League already exists, in my opinion. And it is kind of, I know I'm saying that with one of the teams that I support being a part of that Super League. I understand that. But I mean, realistically, that's how I look at it. It's the Premier League is set up for the teams that bring eyes and fanship to the table. And those teams are the teams I just mentioned. That's how I see it. But I wanted to definitely, while we have a good number of people in the chat here, I wanted to ask this little fun little question here. This is certainly somewhat trending. These 2 questions, I've combined 2 questions into one somewhat, but this is a question. Who is more likely to stay on as manager? Erik ten Hag or Pochettino at Chelsea? Who is more likely to stay on as manager? Are we looking at Ten Hag or Poch at Chelsea? Because both of these big clubs have their big name managers on the hot seat, to say the least. In the chat, tell me who you think is going to be the first to see. Who's the more likely? No, tell me. Oh, excuse me. I said who's likely to stay. So tell me who you think stays. Ten Hag or Poch? And just say either or. Who do you think is safer to stay on? Brian, do you have an idea of who you think is more likely to stay?
I'd say they're both
Oh,
kind of
I
gone.
think you're on
Yeah,
mute.
no, it's hard to kind of look at one and go, he's more than the other because they're both doing really
Let me
badly.
make
They're
sure.
both at
I think
massive clubs.
Brian's. Uh, yep.
Can you
Well,
hear me?
I'll answer that then. Yeah, I
Can you
think for
not
some
hear me?
reason
Yeah?
your audio's not coming through.
Hello.
But all right, let me just. I'll go on with some of what the chat is saying. KJ says Poch is safer. Okay. Ten Hag. That's interesting. I mean, like, it's interesting to see who's good because both are on the hot seat right now. Both are on the hot seat. Lee is saying Poch. Okay. I don't. It's like it's one of those questions. I'm just like, it's interesting because look, we all understand the amount of changes that Chelsea has put forth in trying to make this transition with these new owners, be seamless. It hasn't necessarily gone that way. We've seen both of them really, really put money into their teams. Let's not get it twisted. United have spent money. United has spent money. So, and it's one of the reasons why United is not able to make a lot of some of the acquisitions that they were poised to make, and they just can't because of they're a little bit purse strung in when it comes to trying to stay within the profitability and sustainability rules now. But it's going to be interesting, and I know that there's a likelihood that both could find themselves out of a job come summertime. But out of the two, who do you think is more likely to stay? I think that's a very, very interesting question. Realism Jared says it's a dead heat between Poch and Ten Hag. Okay. And they even put as far as to say they both will survive the season when Ten Haram is gone. I got you. In the summer, third Jim wants Potter. All right. That's very interesting if he drops and goes with Potter. Brian, are you
Am I
back
back?
with us now?
Can you hear me?
Okay. Let me make sure. Hold on. Maybe it might be me.
Have you
Let me double
muted me?
check. No, I can hear you now. I can hear
Oh,
you.
you hear me? Okay. Were you all good?
Yes, we're good. For some reason,
Yeah.
it was my fault. My bad. It
I'm
wasn't
with
I mute
Brian.
you. It was more like my mute had gone on the computer for some reason. My
Oh,
bad.
okay. I think
I know. Yes, I
everyone
hear
can hear me.
him.
You can. Yeah.
Yeah. I hit the mute button on my actual computer, not
Okay. Yeah.
sorry about that, right?
I
But
won't. I won't.
tell me who you think though, Brian, who's more likely to stay? Who's more likely
Well,
to stay?
I'm with Jared. That's what I was saying earlier on. It's like if you gave me 50 quid and said, right, go into the bookies there now and put that on one of them. I mean, I'd still be standing there an hour later. They're both at
Yeah,
big clubs. They're both doing mass. They're both really well. Ten
underperforming.
Hag is
Yeah.
underperforming slightly less than Poch is. Poch is really underperforming. Ten Hag,
That's funny. He's sucking, but not he's just slightly less
yeah,
sucking.
sucking less. Yeah. Sucking slightly less. But see, Chelsea are the more hire 'em, fire 'em type of club. Chelsea have
Mhm.
always been that kind of club that isn't afraid to get rid of a manager that's doing well, doing badly. They don't hang around. But I think the other problem is, like we were speaking before a few times, the managerial market is difficult at the moment to bring in someone that's going to. And I think that's probably why. Like if there was an obvious candidate out there, maybe it's Ten Hag might still be in his job. He's been there longer. Pochettino hasn't. I think
Yeah,
Pochettino.
and a lot of those guys in for United are Ten Hag guys. Like that's a lot of the guys that are in that team are Ten Hag guys. I'm not going to say
Oh,
that the guys that are in for Chelsea, they're not really Poch's guys. They're not like the guys that Poch said, these are the guys I want. This is the team I need. Blah 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 blah. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's definitely not how it works at Chelsea. You get, you show up to work on Monday morning, and it's like, oh, we've signed
Just get what
someone
you
for 80
get
million
what they
quid.
serve you. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
okay. I think, right, thanks very much. But I think the likes of like Lisandro Martinez, Casemiro. I don't know about Casemiro actually, but Anthony and the kid Hoyland.
Mhm.
I'd say they're probably 50-50 Ten Hag signings and United signings.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I would expect, if you had to call it, I'd say Pochettino first, but
Okay.
not by much. But you see, there's a there's a there's a water level, there's a ground level for Chelsea, and
Mhm. Oh.
they're going to stop spending money like they have been pretty
Mhm.
soon, and they're going to go back to where they were because they don't have the Abramovich money.
Mm.
So I think they're going to land back in mid-table pretty soon. They're
Mm.
going to become a team that finishes fifth and sixth pretty often,
Wow.
more often than not. They
Wow.
always were that. They were always that. That's always what Chelsea were. Abramovich came in, totally turbocharged them. Then he
Yeah.
left, wrote off £1 billion.
Right.
I mean, it's not that it doesn't really, they're not that big commercially. They're not that big. Well, they are compared to a lot of clubs, but they're not a
Right.
big worldwide club. They're not a United or a PSG or a Madrid or anything like that. So once they're out of the top four for a couple of years, just watch them become
Wow.
a sixth place club.
Everyone, I want you to hear it first. You heard it here first, I should say. Brian says Chelsea will not be a top four club in a couple of years. I
No,
like it.
it's
I
it's
like
over.
it. Breaking news. Breaking news. I like it. Hot take. Hot take.
Yeah,
Um,
you got rid of my thing, and then my avatar disappeared.
right. Yeah, yeah, very true. Definitely, you guys got to stay for the fifth question that I have on here. These are my top five, obviously, top five Twitter takes. But the fifth question is definitely worth staying around for. So hopefully you are here for it. But I wanted to say this is that the next question I have on this list is who is your leading candidate for player of the season so far this year? Who is your leading candidate for the player of the season so far? Not obviously, we're not done the season just yet, but who is your leading candidate for player of the season so far this year? I know I have my own conceptions of who I think should be possibly the player of the season, but I'd like to know yours. I would like to hear who you think is the player of the season so far. Um, there are some healthy candidates actually going on right now too. Definitely some healthy candidates. I think Brian just had a drop on his connection. Who does okay, he's back. You there, Brian?
Yeah,
Okay, cool. That's not
it
me. That's not me, by the way.
no,
Okay.
it's just earlier on when it switched in and out. When it came back, my avatar was gone. It got that silly grey thing, so I just
I
came
got you.
in
I
and
got
to bring it
you.
back up.
So
So yeah,
yes, my question is
you're
who
talking about
is your who is your leading candidate for player of the season so far? You can do what KJ has done, which is like give maybe like the top and then maybe like an honorary mention. But who is
are we
your
doing Liverpool or everyone?
I'm talking about for player of the season for the entire Premier League.
Oh,
Who
cool.
is
Yeah,
your who's your leading candidate for the Premier League? That is, guys, not just for Liverpool, for the Premier League.
yeah.
Do you
And
have do
oh,
you have an
I,
idea
w-
of
I would.
who you put?
Yeah, if he was. Oh crap,
I'm
there's a
the
few.
person I'm going to
There's
say is
a
going to be
few.
kind of it's going to be a crazy take. I understand that, but we'll go with what it goes.
Yeah, like I'm going to try and just say, like, not just immediately go for a Liverpool player, but even if
Right.
we're talking about best player in the league this season, could still be could still be
Mm,
Virgil. Yeah, but I think Watkins near almost. He's having an amazing season. Player of the season level, I don't know. One
I
you
like
mentioned
Phillips.
earlier on, Phil Foden. He's having a really great season as well, but he was a bit quiet at the start of the year.
Right.
Saka now is coming back into great form, but he was very
Yep.
quiet for a long time. So I think longevity wise, I think probably VVD might be up there, yeah. But very much honorable mentions. Honorable mentions definitely to Ollie Watkins
Mm-hmm.
and maybe a little, yeah, definitely a little shout for the likes of Foden and that, but also Dom Solanke. But I don't think it's a vintage year for player of the seasons because Haaland and
Mm-hmm.
De Bruyne aren't really doing anything. There's nobody at Spurs because they've had lots of injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think VVD maybe, but if I was forced to do a non-Liverpool, I would probably just about go with Ollie Watkins, even though he doesn't impress me that much.
Okay.
Shania Twain reference there for you.
Okay. Ollie Watkins. That's a strong shout. Actually, you stole a little bit of my thunder because that's what I was going to say. Villa has been a
Yeah,
somewhat of a surprise this year. They've definitely at times have like overperformed,
yeah,
but I was gonna go with Watkins. His numbers have been. I think he's had a surprisingly solid year and strong year at that. And like I think that I there was a. I mean, I personally I want to see VVD win it. Obviously, that's the preferred choice of mine. I don't want to be, I'm already called a homer as is, so I don't want to be too much of a, too much of looking at showing some type of bias. But I think Watkins is having a strong year this year. And I think that like Bill Foden's is a solid shout, especially considering his performance in the Derby this past weekend. Definitely puts, I might call me recency bias, but it definitely puts a strong slant in his favor, saying showing up in a big game. Saka is a shout. I think Saka was definitely quiet throughout somewhat the year, a little bit here and there. But he has been playing. He's been playing well. I think Saka's had a better year for them in the Champions League than he has in the Premier League for Arsenal.
he's
But
woken up a bit lately, but yeah, he
yes,
had a quiet-ish. His numbers were good. His numbers were still on par with last year.
mm-hmm.
Over his quiet months, but he wasn't, the big player he was last year. But he seems to be coming back to that. And even in
Son,
a non-Liverpool sort of, if you're
mm,
doing non-Liverpool, you're obviously going walking. But who else
yeah.
would you have honorable
Uh,
mentions? Say
Mills and Jarrett said
non-Liverpool.
Kudus. Kudus is a shout. He said. Do you think Kudus is a shout?
I think he's a brilliant player, but player of the
Oh,
season
Phil
maybe
Football.
it's not a
This is a
vintage
shout.
year for strikers.
That's a shout. Vicardi. I don't know if a goalkeeper would get player of the year, but I mean like
Oh,
um
not one with the defensive record that Tottenham have.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like I know he's a great keeper. Don't get me wrong. Philip's right. He's a great keeper.
yeah.
He really is. But and you have to be playing for an Anya side because you're probably going to work a lot. You know. But it's not a vintage year in the Premier League for
Mm.
outstanding players. It's not a vintage time maybe. Like Foden. Foden's been in my fantasy football team for about three months now,
Mm-hmm.
and he's someone that in previous years, as good as he is, you'd never have him, never, because he'd play a
Mm-hmm.
game, get dropped for a game, play 3 games, get dropped for 2 games, play
Mm-hmm.
5 games, and then you'd bring him in because he was doing really well, and then he wouldn't start the next 2 games. That was always the
Mm-hmm.
problem with Foden, with getting him at the right time. So everyone just kind of basically avoided him, like pep roulette. You never knew who was
Mm-hmm.
starting. This season, you can play Foden because he's starting every game. He's playing 90 minutes. He's scoring
Right.
goals. Yeah, he's getting assists. So this is without doubt his best, definitely Foden's best season. So I think
Yes,
he's a strong
yes,
contender. I really think he's a strong contender.
yeah. I agree with that. I was going to say Watkins. I was just looking at the numbers for him too. By the way, like 16 goals this year for Watkins. That's
And
pretty
plenty of
pretty.
assists. Look at his assists. He got a hat trick of assists in one game. He got 2 assists in another game. He got an assist. He didn't score, if I remember correctly. He didn't score in his first 4 league games, but he got an assist
Right.
in every one of those games.
Yeah. No, I mean
So
he's
his
he's he's
GA
really
is
having a great year. He's having a great year
yeah.
for and considering like I don't think many people would have thought of him being in the top 3 of goal scorers in the Prem right now. I don't think many would have put Watkins as being a
Well,
strong team to be there.
well, you would have in terms of fantasy football. Again, bringing it back, and you're talking about people who use AI algorithms and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Fantasy football
Mm-hmm.
has gone into a completely different level now in terms of using stats, predictors, AI, all those tools. It's amazing. Like, but top 3 to start of the season, you're going to have 3 strikers: Haaland, Watkins, and then some people might have said pick, whichever one you want, but it was Haaland and Watkins from day one. That's who all the
That's interesting.
stats
Okay.
people had him. Yeah, because
Okay.
the
How about
next
even
ones then
then?
would have
Yeah.
been a Nunez, a Jesus, a Solanke. They weren't, but Watkins is a GI machine, GA, or
Mm-hmm.
it's for fantasy football. He's a lock. He's an absolute lock. Um, did it all last season. He's been doing it all this season. I don't particularly enjoy him as a player. Um,
Right.
but another guy that's a great shout and would be under the radar. But I wouldn't be surprised if he got Villa fans player this season would be Douglas Luiz, who's
Oh,
been
okay.
brilliant
Yeah.
for Villa. He's
Yeah.
been absolutely brilliant for Villa. He
I saw.
scored.
I was gonna go with a West Ham player actually, and I was gonna say maybe even. I thought Jared Bowen has really stepped it up, considering
Yeah,
he's been
good season.
moved in from winger to striker just out of need, but yet has 14 goals this year. Really contributing, being like making a statement year, if anything, this year with his performances this year.
Paqueta has been brilliant for him. Paqueta is way too good. For everyone talks about Kudus, people
Mm-hmm.
for some reason don't talk about Paqueta. Like West
Yeah.
Ham lost him for a few games. Alvarez there. I'm assuming he means Alvarez. Nilante is talking about Alvarez at West
Yeah.
Ham, the
Mm-hmm.
defensive midfielder
Mm-hmm.
brought in from
Mm-hmm.
Ajax to replace Declan Rice.
Mm-hmm.
And but Paqueta is like at West Ham. Every now and again, they buy players that are too good for West Ham, and they stay there for a year, and they leave.
Yeah.
And Kudus and
That's what
Paqueta
it was
are
again.
way
Yeah.
up into that tier.
Yeah.
Paqueta comes like he was one gambling mistake away from a £90 million move to Man City. 90 million to Man City. That's how much, that's how highly rated he is. 90 million quid to Man City. The money was on the table. Then this thing about gambling comes out. Yoink, money disappears.
Money disappears. Yeah.
But that's how good
I
that lad is.
I
He
think
opens up Bowen. Sorry, no,
yeah.
we're all talking about Bowen. It's like Bowen's numbers when Paqueta are in the team and Antonio was off. That guy's done. He has been for about a year. He's nearly 35 now, 36. Always injured, and Bowen is playing up front. Paqueta and Kudus just feeding him passes. That's that's a recipe for goals. Even if they're not very good overall, it's a recipe for goals. Paqueta,
Yeah.
unless this kind of personal thing that's going on, this gambling thing. Now he hasn't been banned. He never missed the game for West Ham. So obviously, whatever this thing was, has
It
either been
wasn't
sorted or it's
right.
been on the
It
long
wasn't as
finger.
serious as people
Yeah.
were making out to be. Yeah.
So I think he could be he can play. This guy can obviously play for a top club. I mean, a top club.
Okay. Well, then, you know what? Since we've all had our say on who we think would be the leading candidate for player of the season for the Premier League, I'm going to ask a specific. Who do you think has been Liverpool's player of the season for our team, not for the entire league, but for our team? Who has been Liverpool's player of the season so far? Not obviously, we've got a whole season, so this obviously couldn't change towards the end at the end of the year.
Yeah, definitely.
But I would like to know, I would like to know who right now currently do you say is our leading player of the year candidate for Liverpool? That's why I was saying, hopefully you guys stuck with me, especially the Reds in the chat. I really wanted to see who is going to get that nomination, because there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people I would put that could be. These are just candidates. I'll just sprinkle some ideas into your heads. Obviously, we've already heard the VVD shout. We've already heard possibly even the Endo shout. But there could be a shout for Mo. There could be a shout for Kanate. There could be a shout for McAllister. There could be a shout for even Trent. There could be a shout for Nunez. There could be a shout for Diego. There's a lot of names on this list for this year. And even Philip's bringing up a definitely a wild card right now. He's saying possibly even Bradley. And shame on me. Joey G could be a name in that list. Easily could be a name on that list. I would like to know. I'll even make sure that I get a running tally of the votes for us. If I can find a pen for here, but I would like to know. Curtis Jones, another super solid shout from Bonkers LFC. Who gets currently the nod for player of the season so far for Liverpool FC?
Yeah, if you want to put it in the chat, just so there's no confusion, put the name and put the number 1 beside it, because some people might be just offering up. But whoever your nomination for player of the season so far, put the name in and put number 1, so 12th man can count them easier.
Yep.
But for me, I think I was told to forget about it, so it'd be a little bit easier. But Nalante stole the thunder. I would give it to Joe Gomez right now.
Oh, wow.
I'd be, because I've spoken about it all week. Yeah, Joey G, because as imperious as VVD has, I just think what Gomez has done for us this season has allowed us to stay where we are, and he's performed brilliantly in more than one position. He's never really let us down. Everything he's done, like VVD, has probably now. I like to kind of, I can't just be kind of. I like to put nuance into things, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, VVD has been our best player, but Gomez has been our player of the season for me so far. If you know what I'm saying, he's been our most important player. So VVD, best player on the pitch, but I don't think we are where we are without Gomez. And I think that's what's for me is giving him. And like I said to you the other night, if we win the league, he won't get the award, because the bigger name players will get it. But if you were to ask everyone in the squad, if you were to ask Jurgen Klopp who the player of the season was, I think he'd say Joe Gomez but whoever he said, he would say and Joey G, because he's just been 100% completely instrumental to what we've been doing this season. Doesn't happen without him. I don't think it does. Honestly, I don't believe we cope with those injuries if we don't have him filling in. And he didn't just fill in; he did brilliantly. So, I might be over egging it a bit, but I think he's. And it's just great to see, considering how close he came to maybe leaving the club, maybe going somewhere else to get his career back on track. And not about getting kicked out, but just thinking, I've been injured, I need to go somewhere or play, get back. It just shows you in football that you never give. Not about giving up, but if the chance might always come, to come back into a team. I just think it's brilliant.
Yeah, I was going to say, I find it interesting. A name that again, shame on
And they
me.
call you the
I mean,
romantic one. They say you're the
I,
romantic one. That's pure
oh
romance.
no,
But
no,
I
yeah.
just want them
Well,
together. But for
yeah.
everything he's been through,
I'll definitely give my football romantic take on it pretty soon. But I was going to say a name that didn't get mentioned in the chat, even by myself, but someone that has been hugely responsible for the reason why we are where we are, even though he doesn't score goals. Ali did not get a mention by anyone really. He wasn't even
I
the
don't
first.
think Mac did. Mac get a mention either. I don't think Mac got a mention, did he?
Well, yeah. I put Mac,
Yeah.
not by the chat at
Yeah.
least. I mean, I put
Yeah, no,
Ali.
I'm just surprised he didn't even get a name thrown in. Ali, no, he didn't.
Yeah,
Ali definitely got mentioned.
but Ali definitely didn't get a name thrown in there. And sometimes, in some places, sometimes especially throughout the year, there were times when people are going like the only reason why we were in these games or even had a chance of winning these games was because of Allison.
Yeah, but then he got injured, and then we didn't need him anymore.
Yeah. Of course, that's what
He got
happens.
injured. He went
Recently
from being
biased,
injured
I
to
got
being
you on
injury
that one.
prone. He's injury prone now.
Kelleher's been good too. He has been good too. Has really been good too. As of late,
Got it.
he wasn't
Got
as
it.
he definitely suffered a little bit. His nomination would suffer a little bit because of some of those early matches where we won simply because of our offense and not because of our defense, or not especially because of our goalkeeping. But you know,
Yeah. And
three
can I
clean
just
sweeps later.
can I just say one thing as well?
Yeah, do it.
So in my head, by the way, this is a league player of the season. Because if I go into Europa League and yada, for me, but this is
Yeah. Okay.
me as in Premier League
Yes.
player. of the season. I'm not taking into cup games and because then
Got
you
you.
go. But yeah, no, that's this is league Premier League
Just
player.
yeah, we could just do it on just the Premier. We just do it on the Premier
Yeah,
League.
yeah,
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah. Because some of the kids,
But
have all been great. Like there's one, there's one
right.
young player.
Yeah, and we could do one for the young player of the
Yeah,
season too.
under
Yeah,
21, just
we
in
can
our
sub
squad.
we can sub it and make it into to do a young player of the season. That would be a fun one too,
No,
actually.
just quickly in the chat. Under 21 young player of the season. I think it's obviously Bradley, right? Or Kwanzaa?
No,
Bradley or Kwanzaa?
no.
No,
I if you're asking me, I'd give it to let me see if I can
I'm not counting Harvey. I know he's in the age group, but I'm not counting Harvey.
Oh, don't do it. I was just about to do that. I was
Oh,
just about
well,
to
he's
bring
been
him
playing
out.
first team football for like
He's 21
3 years.
and under.
I
He's
know he
21 and
is. I
under.
know he is. I know he is. But he gets an exemption. He's because he's obviously. I mean, just to make it
Because I was going to
interesting.
say, he's been monumental for us as a sub. And
Oh,
even
definitely, definitely.
no.
As a starter, but just to kind of make it more about the non-first team young players.
Right.
I'd still go Bradley over Conte, but
Well, wait. Let me first before we get into because we can do that. I can go. We can extend at least another 10 minutes. We can go into extra time, but I want to get this. I want to make sure I get this vote for calculated for
okay, cool.
the
Sorry.
actual, for the actual player of the season for the Prem, obviously, as Brian put it. Make sure I got all the votes in for your votes in for the Prem player of the season so far for Liverpool. Okay. Let me see make sure I got all the votes in here, and I will show them as we go. So Lee Wizkid said BBD, like he said, but Gomez has been astonishing. Got the BBD vote in there. Curtis Jones for Bonkers, got that one on. I know Redbird gave an honorary nod to Jurgen Norbert Klopp. Got that vote in. I see you. Big up to Redbird, by the way. Let's see. Nalante put in a shot for Gomez as his player of the year so far for Liverpool. Philip gave a shout to Gomez, but also had BVD, Curtis Jones, and Mo, and then Bradley as his top 5 candidates. Let's see, and that's and then who would you want to put your vote in for, Brian? I'll make sure your account too.
Oh yeah, definitely Gomez.
You put in this for Gomez.
Yeah,
Wow, man. You know what's so crazy? Because my vote won't even. I mean, my vote's not even going to really count much. So I'll say I'll be I don't know. I'll be different and say Nunez. How about that? But I was gonna say just so he can get a vote in there. Maybe I should say Ali just to be righteous and get a vote for him too. But what I was gonna say is what's very interesting is that for a player that was almost I'd say 80%, 70, 80% of the socials had this player being a player that they did not want to see put on a red kit going into the new campaign. For him to be in the consideration of being the player of the year, of the season so far, at least, is mind-blowing. That is so incredible. It goes to show you that sometimes maybe before we quick to pass these judgments on these players, maybe we got to just kind of allow for the cards to lie where how they say, or let the cards lie wherever they're laid, or I forgot. Now I know I'm butchering that statement.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I used to know what it was, and you've actually jumbled it up so much in my head that I've forgotten what it is.
I forget how to say it, but anyway.
Football has a potential for redemption stories. All sport does. All sport.
Yeah.
Well, football does have the
I'm
potential
sorry too, by the way. Sorry not to cut you off, but I got to make sure Endo too. By the way, got to show. Endo.
I got one for Endo.
Got one for Endo.
Yeah, and Joey's on one of those. He's on one of those.
Joey's on almost everyone's list. Joey's on almost even the people that voted for other people. They still somewhat had Gomez. Like Lee had VVD, but he still had Gomez involved in the vote. Cedric had Endo, but he still had Gomez in there as being someone he would put as a nominee up for consideration. That says a lot though about the arc that you're talking about for Gomez this year.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I think he deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
well done for him too. Yeah. Like Delonte says, some people forget Joey's body of work. Yeah. I mean,
he's
look, it's not
the dark days. Well, not the dark.
Longest tenured Red that we have on this team is named Joey Gomez, or Joe Gomez, I should say. His name's not Joey, but all the same. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. How it goes when it goes to talking about those football romantic slants or angles of teams. I really want to hear what everyone had to say about that. I think that Joey's had a phenomenal year, considering that he's been vital for us this season. Without Joey, we would have been up the creek without a paddle, for sure.
No, I don't think it happens. What we've done, I don't think it happens. I mean, it's just it'll be the biggest kind of unsung hero kind of season. I think but the squad and the manager, they'll know.
Mm-hmm. I would say this, Delonte. If our fan base, which is you're right, unfortunately there are some unknowledgeable or at least reactionary style fan bases out there. But I will say this: the fan base that shows up on this channel, like yourself, like Cedric, like Redbird, like Philip, like Lee, like Bonkers, KJ, Realism Jared. Heck, it's probably even why Yeshua is King is in here too. Keep it real. All you guys definitely. I really do appreciate your comments, and I think that because you're a part of this community here, at least, you sometimes keep a little bit of a measured approach towards jumping off the bridge with everyone else. Before realizing.
It is quite interesting that, and I'm not saying the people in this chat, right. But it's quite interesting where you'll see someone in a chat room, or not a chat room, in a live chat,
Mm-hmm.
and
Going
because
back to AOL
the
days. I
show
got
is,
you.
yeah, the show is going, one particular way, they'll be like that. But then
Mm-hmm.
you see them in other chats, and they're not like that because the people hosting the show aren't going off their nut. But yeah, I've heard of people that are the same in all the chats, because you see people that are like, yeah, it's like they just go with the flow sometimes. So the people that come into this chat seem to be fairly kind of balanced all the time. Some of
Yeah.
them, not all of them. Some of them, not
No,
all
and
of
that's
them.
the thing about it is that, you know what, I can say this in defense
You know
of,
who you are, Nilante. You know who you are, Nilante.
no, seriously, what's good about this community that we're building here is that, like, look, you could have a differing opinion. I think that, like, one thing that we've definitely championed more so on this channel than not is that even though your opinion might not necessarily be the same opinion as mine or Brian or whoever else in the chat along with you, it doesn't mean that you can't have that opinion, you know? So, like, I definitely enjoy, like, exchanges between us so that we can, figure out, maybe one's right, maybe one's wrong, maybe in a crazy world, both of us are right, in one way or another.
Well, in
So,
football, oftentimes in football, there is no right or wrong. It's
right.
just, it's just opinions, and it's learning to come to that kind of realization that you both have different opinions, but it's not a war. It's not, you
Right.
can say something like this or that, and that's where you
Right.
get the best kind of stuff from. Is when it's like because like everyone in the chat would know, there's nothing worse than watching one of those panel shows where there's six people on it, and like they all
Mhm.
just agree with each other all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
You don't
yeah,
want
yeah, yeah.
fights. You don't want fights
Yep.
or drama, but you want like different opinions, and but they're for a reason, not just. But I just like I don't know, like learning from people. I like learning from people in the chat. Some of the people that are
No,
a lot
yeah,
more
yeah.
knowledgeable than me, and they can tell you things.
It's how you
And then you
learn.
can use it, like you say,
Yeah.
build up your knowledge base to help you
Yeah.
be better prepared moving forward.
Yeah. Quick question to the chat. I'll throw this in as an honorary question. Bonkers, definitely good guy. He asks, would you see Joey G in the England squad for the international? Yes or no?
Well, I
I
asked
know
this
that you're
on
asking for a
Frank's
yes
show,
or no
was it?
answer. What's that?
Yeah. No, I was
I was
saying
just
I
gonna
asked
say,
this
I
on
know he's
Frank's, was
go
it?
ahead.
Yeah, no, I think I asked you this question, I know because neither of us are
Yeah.
English.
Right, right. So we don't have a
Because
we
it's
don't
like,
have a card. Yeah. We don't have a
yeah, we
card
don't
in
want them going.
but I don't want to see him even close to England squad, to be honest with you, because I don't, as Nolante said earlier, his body of work. Well, unfortunately, his body of work includes him getting hampered by
They're
joining
broken.
the English squad. So, it's the reason why we're in a little bit of a spat with the Egyptian national federation over over if Salah should join them for the international break or not. But I still think that, like, on on performance alone, yes. On utility alone, yes. Do I think that Joey gets in as a starter? Probably not, because the bigger names are probably going to get the bigger, more well-known names are probably going to be the ones that get the starts for Southgate. But I think that Southgate's going to look at this team and say that it would be nice to have a player like Joey G on there so that he could possibly not have to take on an additional player for whatever position that he wants in that back line. He could then say, oh, well, then now I can go for another midfielder or maybe even another forward to this lineup, as opposed to having to rely on getting Joey G that can only play right back or left back. But no, he can play right back, right? He can play right back. He can play center back. He can play left back. So having that versatility probably makes Southgate go, yeah, he's probably a natural selection for him. That's just my opinion. What's yours, Brian? That's obviously a yes.
Yeah, I think I said it on Frank's show or your show last time. It's like, how close is he? What does he
Mm-hmm.
have to do to get called up? Like, I don't want him to get called up, but what does he have to do to get that recognition? If it's
Mm-hmm.
something that he wants, because I know some players are like, No, I'm not declaring myself unavailable, but they don't really want to play. They want to prolong their careers. I don't know, but I think he's like Southgate is famous for having his favourites, and I think that's very much the case. Like, I don't think he's ever picked Gomez. I might be wrong. I'm not sure. I
No,
know he's injured a lot, but I don't know if he's ever represented England under Southgate. May have done once or something, but
yeah. When
I
he got
don't think
injured, was Southgate the
there
manager for them
was.
at the time?
I couldn't tell you. Was there 6 years Southgate's there? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
So
I don't
he
know
just
either.
seems like one of those guys that doesn't get called up. But my whole thing was that surely what he's doing deserves the recognition of the play. But at the
Yeah,
same time, like it's a Euros in Germany. Yeah, I think he's just not one of Southgate's group. But how far? My kind of, I think the point I was trying to make was how far off is this guy
how far
actually
off is he?
forcing Southgate to
Yeah,
say, well, I kind of have to call him up. I just, yeah, like as Liverpool fans, we don't want any of these guys, especially England.
yeah.
Because it's not just Gomez. I mean, and
No,
it's
I
not
say,
just
hey,
either.
take as many of the Manchester City and Arsenal players as you can. Leave Liverpool
Yeah,
players alone on the English
we have a
selections.
history of getting England. Or we've a history of players going away for England and come back injured. So
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, Nalante said, I'm gonna get Lee's comment up there too, because I thought Lee's comment was poignant too. But Nalante says the Egyptians are moving wild. He says Salah wasting in friendlies is a joke, which is the truth. I mean, like it would be one thing if it was, it was a qualifier or something like that. But if it's a friendly and you're trying to put some demands on him coming back to play, that's that's you saying, you know what, that's you saying I'm going to just absolutely destroy this relationship with his club team and the national team.
yeah, there's
I
no
don't
need
understand.
for. Like, I know what they do. I know it's a different way of looking at things, and for them, he's their
Sure,
man. But
sure.
it's not as
I
if
mean,
he's been
yeah,
playing for six. Like the guy's been injured for last month,
yeah, yeah,
and we might
yeah,
get him back for one game, and then they immediately want it. Like, no, sorry, like that's like I said before. We need to start getting a little bit more clever. Not disrespectful, not lying, but just a little bit more clever with players picking up knocks before these
yep,
little international friendly breaks and not being able to go
yep,
away.
yep,
But now we have
yep.
this new thing where they're forced to go anyway. You can't just do that. You can't just ring up. This is Ferguson's fault. You can't just ring up and say he's not fit. They
Yeah,
can call him up
yeah,
regardless. Even if he's got two broken legs, they can call him up and then they'll assess it.
yeah. No, I get
So
that. And this is, yeah.
yeah,
Listen, Jared
so
said, kind of stole my thunder a little bit. And this is what I was gonna say too: is that Egypt always wants Salah to be with them. Their FA wants the stadiums full to get the money. Salah is worth a lot to them, and that's spot on. I think, as in,
yeah,
just the sheer fact of him being, you know, whether he
oh,
plays or
he's like
doesn't play.
Messi. He's like
Yeah.
Messi, Ronaldo. In Africa, he's like Messi, Ronaldo. Yeah, he is. Just as big as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, for
Mm-hmm.
their FA stuff, it does mean an extra maybe 20,000, 30,000 people show up to one of these huge
Yeah.
100,000
Yeah.
seater games.
Whether they're Egyptian fans or not. I mean, like, to be honest with you, whether they're Egyptian fans or not, that's it's just the more likelihood of fans
Yeah,
showing
we,
up just to
we
see
don't
Salah.
know. We don't
Yeah.
realize, and some people, like, as much as we think we do, we have absolutely no idea how big he is in North Africa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We don't get it. Like, he is literally a god. This isn't just
Yeah.
watching your favorite. It's here. It's insane. Like,
Yeah.
we
Well,
can
and he
kind
has
of
his critics.
comprehend it.
He has his critics. I mean, like, there's people that back in Egypt that are very critical of him, of his performances,
Yeah,
or what he does in his own personal life. Representing not only Egypt but representing Islam in general. And it's not an easy
That's the
life to
whole thing.
live.
He's an Islamic
Yeah,
superstar. That's the
yeah.
other thing.
He's
He's
a
an Islamic
world
superstar.
class world star. Yeah.
Yeah, Messi was white. Ronaldo was white. They haven't had, well, since George Weah won the Ballon d'Or and was the best player in the
Mhm.
world for a couple of years at AC Milan. They've had the Tourés, they've had some, but Salah, for some reason, has completely
Mhm.
exploded. He's twice as big as everyone else. I was wondering what KJS was doing. Because
Mhm.
KJS, I was looking, he's definitely watching like half an hour ago, commenting on like, he realized that he didn't realize he wasn't watching live. I've done that
Yeah, because
myself
he
a
brought
few
up
times.
Paqueta. He brought up Paqueta, and I'm like, okay, okay.
Yeah,
And then he
oh,
said
okay, right.
McGinn.
And then, yeah, because I was talking about Douglas Luiz at Villa, and
Yeah,
he was saying McGinn has been immense, which he's right as well. McGinn has been immense. But I've done that as well, man. And after 2 minutes, you're looking and you see the bar, you're like, oh, idiot.
yeah,
This,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you can watch
That's
live
because
in your
sometimes
comment.
go to other thing. Go if you go to other streams or other tabs, it'll pause. It'll pause the
The iPhone, the iPhone is the worst for that, man. If you don't actually close out of YouTube, even if you go back 2 hours later, it'll bring you back to the point that you left the stream at.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
stupid.
Okay.
The iPhone automatically does that.
Yeah. I
Because
don't.
I only,
Yeah.
yeah, I just got an iPhone recently. I've always had Android. Well, I have an Android phone and an iPhone. I use both,
Right.
but
Oh
the
wow, look
iPhone
at
I've
you.
only just, well,
Okay.
no, one is like a house phone,
Kevin
like
Gates
it's,
has Kevin Gates
you
two
know,
phones, right?
oh, Johnny Two Phone. That's what they call me, Johnny Two Phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're not. Let's not
I
speculate
was
what Brian
cooking
does in
for,
his spare
yeah.
times to need two phones.
Yeah.
But all right, that's cool.
No,
Just
it's just
playing with you.
Android. Yeah, no, it's just Android is so much easier to use than iPhone. iPhone
Yeah,
makes you just,
yeah,
Apple are just dickheads when it comes to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
StreamYard, when it comes to things like that. Oh, do you want to? You sure you want to use this? All this kind of thing. And Android is just like, okay, cool, yeah, accept. It'll just do anything. It
Accept
has
it. Yeah,
no
yeah, yeah.
filter. It has no filter. Whereas iPhone is like, are you sure you want to do that? Yeah.
Well, we are going to land this plane here. I'm going to say tomorrow. Please do tune in. I'm going to do a lead in for the show for the Europa game on Thursday. Doing a show each day of the week at 7 p.m. UK time this week. Uh, tomorrow I will bring up the question of who's Liverpool's player of the season for 21 and under. Okay, of our youth players tomorrow. We can have a vote on that tomorrow. But for today, it looks like surprisingly so, or not so surprisingly so. Our young Joey G, who's searching for his first goal. No, I'm not saying for you to ask him to shoot, but I'm saying that I am saying he is searching for his first goal. And I think he's gotten it right here by the first goal for him certainly would have been, putting in a performance that has people considering him as the player of the season. So bravo to him. I hope that it continues. And yeah, tomorrow we'll have a cool little show lined up for you. I think Brian will be here hopefully. And I hope that you will too, as well, to like help out the numbers and the algorithm and just the dialogue and conversation that we have. But again, is there anything you want to say before we land the plane and let the people depart to whichever destination they have?
No, just yeah, happy landings. But I didn't realize what Jared was saying there. They're actually playing in some stupid competition in the UAE. So okay, great. So he's
Oh,
definitely
okay.
going.
I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up for you real quick.
Yeah,
It
he's
says in the
definitely
Arab
putting
world,
money.
he's huge. They're playing a tournament in the UAE with Croatia, Tunisia, and New Zealand. Salah has to be
Yeah,
there. Otherwise, the Egypt FA don't get the money from tournament officials. Okay, well then have them
yeah,
show
he's
up
definitely
and
going.
and just ride the bench. If that's the case, go home, see some of the family, and then like come back. But to
But this
be
is this one
forced
I'm
to
talking about.
play
Who's
because FA Cup wants to use them as their marketing, as their marketing tool or their cash cow. I'm not down with that. That is whack.
Exactly. This is the point we're making. Who's organizing mid-season tournaments with Croatia, Tunisia? I mean, who's organizing mid-season friendly tournament? I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
ridiculous.
well. Yeah. Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
stupid. Anyway, thanks for everyone
yeah,
that was
yeah,
here saying all the things and the comments and the nice stuff.
yeah. The nice and the not so nice. No, I'm just joking. There's been nothing but nice comments actually today, which is like cool to see. And yeah, so tomorrow, please do join us tomorrow. Enjoy whatever your day has unfolded, or your night, or even your morning has on store for you. May it be good and may it be prosperous. I ask that you, as always, take care of yourself, but also be sure to take care of your loved ones in your lives. As I said before, life is very fragile and is precious, so we have to treat it as such. So we should treat each other with as equally as so. And yeah, if anything, I will see you here tomorrow. Such a pleasure to see each and every one of you guys. I will check you guys tomorrow. You guys take care.